everyone, I'm Jennifer Zarate and you're watching CRN TV. Welcome to the channel Cooking at Home, where we mix business with pleasure, sharing homemade recipes while also covering hot channel topics. And here with me today is ForgeRock's Mary Writz. Thank you for joining me today, Mary.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on. So what recipe will you be sharing with us today?
I am going to make a zucchini pasta. It's inspired by summer, with a lot of items that you could grow in your backyard or get at a farmer's market.
Very fresh indeed. I'm excited to see how it's going to turn out. So what ingredients do we need?
Well, it starts with the zucchini. So we grow these in our backyard, but I like to spiralize them. I have this spiralizer that will turn them into noodles, or you can slice them flat to turn them into noodles. And then we'll have a basil pesto as a topping. So we'll do basil, Parmesan cheese, we have some pine nuts, olive oil, and garlic. And then we're going to top it off with some fresh tomatoes and some fresh mozzarella.
Now, what are the first few steps?
The first thing you'll want to do is get the zucchini started, because that takes the longest. It takes about 20 minutes. And then we'll put together our pesto and then assemble it. So it's actually really pretty quick, pretty easy, but you want to get started with the zucchini. Should we get going?
Yes, please.
I'm just gonna get a pan going here and put a little bit of olive oil into it. And I cook the pasta, the zucchini pasta, on about medium heat. And I'll stir it every 5 minutes or so until it's soft. You don't want it mushy, you just want it nice and soft. I like to do about 1 zucchini per person. So if you're having 2 people, if you have a family of 4, do 4 zucchini.
Now let's switch gears. What was most striking from ForgeRock's 2020 Consumer Identity Breach Report?
Yeah, I think what's most striking is that these breaches just keep going up. And when you think about it, it makes sense. We put more and more of our digital selves online. We use more retail, more banking, more healthcare. And so more of our personal data is out there. And so the findings showcase that the attackers are looking for personal data first and foremost. We call it PII data. That's the most valuable on the black market. And they're targeting technology companies and healthcare companies.
And with the massive shift to remote work due to COVID-19, why is it critical for businesses to invest in data protection?
One thing that's interesting is we often think about credit card data being stolen. And when your credit card data is stolen, we think about going and getting a new credit card. We'll just cancel that one. But medical records are 6 times more valuable on the black market. And that's because what are you gonna do with your medical record? You can't go delete it and get a new one. It's your medical record. It's never been more important to protect people's data and give them control. And so we see a lot of different regulation coming up, but we also see a huge initiative in enterprises to get better at protecting data and better at handling digital identities.
So what does ForgeRock offer partners, not only to protect its employees, but as well as its customers?
The first is our AI and ML product, Autonomous Identity. That's really, it's an approach to solving an age-old governance problem, where we can look at the raw data and understand who should have access to what with very high confidence and explainability. The second piece is that partners are working with large enterprises that already have an identity solution. And typically the very best way to give the fastest return on investment for your customer is to layer a modern identity on top and then take time to move the other away. So we have new accelerator kits and new cloud offerings to make it quick, easy, and fast to layer on top of whatever identity solution they have now, so that you can add passwordless, privacy consent, zero trust. And then you take a little more time to untangle what was there, because it might be 20 or 30 years old and it might take some time. But that way your customers can get quick wins really in a matter of weeks or months.
When it comes to data breaches, ForgeRock has said the biggest cybersecurity problem continues to be an identity problem. So tell us, how has digital identity evolved over the years?
Yeah, so digital identity, it started out as a way in an enterprise to secure a workforce. So you have a very sensitive IP or some kind of plans for a unique product that you're building and you want to protect it. So you protect it by having people log in with a username and password. So digital identity had its roots with employees logging in and protecting assets. So it had this security aspect to identity. But then when you think about what's happened in the world and how we've shifted to the digital economy for retail, healthcare, banking, well, that kind of identity is also about security. So identity's got this, make it really easy because I don't want to lose my customers, or I don't want to make it hard for my employees to do their job. But it's also a deep protection for cybersecurity. And so it's an interesting intersection of enabling technology with being a critical intersection for security.
What value are enterprises finding with multi-factor authentication, otherwise known as MFA, in this new normal business environment?
Yeah, what we found, I feel that enterprises were already moving toward MFA. And in fact, they're moving to the next evolution that they like to talk about, zero trust. So not only that when you logged in, you were exactly who you say you were because you used a biometric and a PIN, so something you have and something you know, but when you initially log in, you probably are who you say you are. But as time progresses, that can change. And so how do you continuously recheck the signals over time to make sure that you still are who you are? What we saw with COVID was that getting to MFA was very near-term objective. Getting to zero trust was 1 to 2 years out. Those timeframes totally changed and pulled in. Our customer advisory board came to us and said, all the red tape and budget issues have been slashed. We got to get to this immediately. So I just think it emphasized it's what everybody knew they ought to do and were planning to do. And now they're doing much faster.
Now let's get back to the zucchini. What comes next in this recipe?
All right, we've got the zucchini done. So let's make the pesto. Now there's 2 ways you can make a pesto. I've got this food processor. It's also fun to make it with the mortar and pestle. That takes longer. So today we'll go the efficient route, but if you have kids and stuff, I find this is really fun. Everybody likes mashing it together. But I'm gonna stick 2 cups of basil in. Let's get that all in there. And 2 tablespoons of pine nuts and a couple of cloves of garlic. And so start with this as your base, and we'll grind this up. And then we're gonna add our olive oil. I have a half a cup of olive oil, and you can add more or less as you like, but I think half a cup is about right. And I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. You can add a little bit of salt and pepper to your taste. 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. Definitely taste it, make sure you like it. And then I'll blend this together. Our last step is going to be to add the Parmesan cheese. And add that last because you just don't want to blend it quite as heavy as the rest. So really this is pretty hard to mess up. So I'm going to add a half of a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. And this will be our last step. I'm just going to blend it till it's incorporated. That's it, we're done. I always like to test things just to make sure it tastes good to me. Oh yeah, that's it. So that our pesto just takes about 5 minutes. And so now we're ready to assemble the dish.
So as we're wrapping up here, report findings also show that enterprises need to increase their identity and access management maturity. Why is that, and why is it critical?
So the #1 method of breach is unauthorized access, meaning they're getting access via credentials into accounts to steal the data, or via an exploit. We need to better protect the credentials. We need to make sure that the users that you've given access to the resource should have access, governance, which we can power with AI. And we also need to understand, should they have access at this time? And we need to feel comfortable that they are who they said they are. So as you evolve identity and access maturity, you're able to lower the this unauthorized attack vector. The two are very closely related.
And when it comes to these breaches, what are you hearing from partners?
So we're hearing directly from partners that these breaches are something that are board level focus. So this is critical not only for the reputation of your company, but it's something your board is concerned about. It's also something that regulators are concerned about. This is something that has to be a top priority.
Now, what are the last remaining steps to this homemade dish?
So what I'm gonna do is just plate it really quick here. So I'm gonna put some of this zucchini noodles on the plate. Make sure they're, and So I'm gonna add some of our pesto on top. And you can mix this all in advance, but I feel like sometimes I like to just layer it on top like this. And then we'll add some tomatoes and some mozzarella. And it's really a beautiful dish, fresh from the garden. It's delicious and low carb, so you can just really go at it, eat a lot of it. Bye.
Bye.